there, my name's Niandra. I haven't finished a main video for this week because I've been grinding competitive 6v6 Elimination. I then thought, hey, why not make a quick video talking about the game mode and then try to give some tips. The competitive 6v6 Elimination top 500 leaderboard currently starts at 3000 SR if you fancy pushing it, by the way. To qualify for top 500 in any competitive game mode, you need to play 50 matches with SMS protection enabled, which I did not. At this point, I was committed and I'm like, whatever, I can enable it and go again, I'll be fine. So I basically did 100 games in 3 days and oh. I do think 50 matches for competitive arcade game modes is a bit ridiculous. Everyone in game who spoke about it was unhappy, and maybe it's why the leaderboard starts out so barren. Many players just do placements then stop, which is completely fair, but it does mean that queue times are incredibly inconsistent. I had one that passed 19 minutes and when I got into a match, someone immediately left and I was so broken. Like, that is me done for the night. Competitive arcade game modes don't seem to have a win percentage tab, nor does there seem to be total games displayed. You can only see your man in games won, which is so stupid. If you're interested in pushing top 500, grab a notepad or some form of tracking and write down each game. This is what I did on my second run, and it really helps keep morale up during the second half. On top of fluctuating queues, there's also downtime in the game mode itself. Before each round starts, there's almost 40 seconds for character selection. I guess Blizzard thought players would want time to communicate and strategize, but who are they kidding? Even in Masters, the conversations aren't super in-depth, and the team compositions seem to be already figured out, so I think 20 or even 15 seconds would be fine. And don't even get me started on Ayutthaya, which was clearly made for a different game mode and has the longest walk from spawn ever. Rounds themselves vary in length, but can be over very fast if one team dominates. Maybe they got a lucky early pick, so there is a chance you're going to spend more time waiting than actually playing. Despite my negativity, I do enjoy 6v6 and it's nice to see alternative competitive modes. I like the idea of a mode that's more organised than quick play, but players aren't going to get mad if you lose, and these kind of tick that. Although if your team isn't organised, this game mode can feel like garbage, but hey, at least it's going to be a relatively quick loss. Okay, so for tips. Even though I played roughly 100 games of 6v6, there's not much to say, so this should be pretty quick. I am not super big into carrying as a concept in normal comp. I believe that every role can climb and has a huge impact on the match. You don't need to play perfectly, just better than the enemy team, and the obsession some players have with carrying has led to the flood of mediocre DPS mains in mid-tier ranks. But that's a conversation for another time, and in Elimination Lockout, carrying can definitely be a thing. Characters like Roadhog or Widowmaker and other heroes with one-shot burst damage abilities are very powerful. They can ignore the healing, the shields, and give the team a fast numbers advantage, which is a huge thing in normal competitive, and that has respawns. If a player on my team gets picked off first, assuming we don't have Mercy, it's really important to quickly stabilise with a pick of our own, or to get more and take back the number advantage. That being said, maps do not have health kits. Keeping healers and to a lesser extent characters with self-heal abilities alive until the endgame can be absolutely crucial and even pull a team back if they have less people left. There's usually nothing wrong with playing a bit slower in these situations, especially if your team has Mercy and she's close to res. When possible, keep track of enemy self-heal abilities. I had one round where my team was 2 squishies versus 1 Roadhog, and I kind of feel like this matchup could go either way. Roadhog could get a good hook on one of them, play safely and vape till it's ready again, then get another hook. Here, my squishies baited out the hook, forced Roadhog to self-heal, then focused him once it was down. I think this is a game mode that heavily revolves around the tanks. If a team is running 2, it's most likely one of the following: Rein Zarya, Orisa Roadhog, or Winston D.Va. Sometimes Hammond is thrown in. Choosing characters that complement the tanks isn't required, but I do recommend it. As a support main, I may select Lucio with Winston D.Va, and Brigitte or Zen for more stationary tanks. Not to say I played perfectly, but I absolutely believe almost all of my losses were down to one of the following. 1. Lack of coordination. During most of my defeats, no one was speaking and or doing their own thing. Unless the enemy team is somehow more messy, this can just be a guaranteed loss. If you're comfortable, I found that even the most basic shot calling can go a really long way. Pointing out flankers or who to target can easily be enough. 2. An ally, sometimes myself, is picked off first in a sloppy manner and the enemy team snowballs from there. You can help avoid this by positioning with the team and being aware of risks when playing greedily. 3, and for me, this was as common as no coordination, but it's tanks playing too passively, which often leads to the rest of the team just being unsure on what to do. It is very frequent with shield tanks on the bigger maps, and even happens when running Winston D.Va, who are supposed to focus the same target, but will occasionally just split off from each other. Please speak up if the tanks aren't doing their job. A lot of the time I didn't. I stayed quiet and felt frustrated that we weren't pressing W, and it is by far my biggest regret with this game mode, and it definitely could have avoided me a good number of losses. Keeping track of what characters the enemy team has won with can be really useful. If a character's counters are locked, you may feel more comfortable playing them. If a team is about to lose and they have the options available, it's very likely they're gonna run Pharmacy because it's often, but not always, a free win if Mercy can stay alive. Running Pharah Mercy with another main healer is absolutely viable now that Baptiste is available, bringing the number of main healers up to 4. This also means Mercy can commit more to pocketing Pharah. Cheese comps like Bastion and Tourbillon are somewhat common, especially if the enemy team has shield tanks remaining. I personally found them used the most when a match was 2-2 or a team was about to lose. Main Junkrat are also fairly common and they're very good at locking down small corridors, so be careful about pushing tight chokes like this room of Black Forest ahead of the team. After a short amount of time, a capture point will appear and a countdown begins to unlock. It's always in the same place every time. I had a match where we were here and the enemy rotated towards our spawn and we just moved a point. This then forced them to come to us. On Castillo, if your team is bunkering here, I recommend one of the supports occasionally flick their camera view to here for possible flanks, especially if the enemy team has a sniper. Losing the first round, and sometimes even the second, isn't always a death sentence, especially if the enemy team is now locked out of good heroes, so try not to lose morale. Keep in mind, the enemy team may expect you to run the same composition after a loss, especially if it includes Pharah Mercy. Some of the maps have spawns with a left side door and a right side door. I've taken it upon myself to be the person that warns the one ally that differs from everyone else. Saying over voice chat, "Hey McCree, you're on your own, be careful," as the match begins might convince your ally not to get picked off 30 meters away from everyone else. So yeah, that's all from me this week, and sorry if 6v6 isn't something that interests you. I have a bunch of scripts I'm working on and plan to do some commentary VODs now that Baptiste is out in comp. I've literally been spending my free time this week playing this stupid goddamn game mode rather than finishing off pre-existing videos. Feel free to check out my Patreon. We hit the goal for disabling ads on my videos, which is cool, so yeah, thank you so much and have a nice day.